Oh, yay! Another unapologetic women share. We've got some really great stuff today. Sylvia,
Woohoo!
I am so glad you're here. Today we're going to be talking about breath work. And if there's anything that can support you in being unapologetic about anything that's going on, I think it's breath work. So I'm really glad that you're here to share your expertise. Will you please tell us who you are, what you do, and why you're so fabulous?
Of course. Oh, thank you. So I'm Sylvia Adler. I was born and raised in Mexico City. I was born by a mom who always read books on nutrition, and I was brought up in a very spiritually minded family. So I feel very blessed about that. So I learned a lot about nutrition as I grew up. So that's always been part of my life. Then, when I was 11 years old, my maternal grandfather was German. He moved in with us. My grandmother died, and he had actually studied the 5 types of yoga. So Inanna, Kundalini, Kriya, Inanna, and Hatha yoga. And he was the first one when I was 11, 12, who taught me all about diaphragmatic breathing and different types of breathing. So I just, again, kind of like grew up with that knowledge. So I feel very blessed and I've always loved it. And I've spent my entire life telling people you need to breathe better. So fast forward many, many years, my husband, whom I met in Mexico City, we married there 43 years ago, and we moved to the States in 1983. And we had 2 beautiful daughters. And in the meantime, I just dedicated myself to my daughters, my family. Then we had this store, as I mentioned, for 10 years. And I've also been, I don't know if any of you are familiar with a company called USANA Health Sciences. They
Mhm.
make pharmaceutical grade supplements, right? So I joined the company, boy, I think 19 years ago, and I've been with them all along. And for quite a chunk of time, I was really focused on growing that business. But I'm more of a sharer, and my business savvy has never been that wonderful. So, I mean, I was growing it little by little, but not enough to help my mom, who ran out of money, and it was up to my sister and me, who she lives in Germany, to pay for her living monthly things in Mexico. So then I had to find a job. A job truly landed on my lap from the heavens, and I've been with a hospice company for 10 years. So
Mhm.
right now it's part-time. But during those years, I thought, you know what? I love this. This is truly life-changing. But I'd rather help people avoid hospice, not because it's not a blessing, because it is, but because if you don't need it, it means that you're healthy, right? I'd rather help people learn how to maintain their health if they're healthy or regain their health and sense of well-being. So in 2017, I became a certified integrative nutrition health coach. And I've been helping people, yes, mind what they eat, but it's all about all the different areas in life. I mean, everything has to do with our health, right? What we think, what we drink, how we sleep, blah, 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 blah. Well, fast forward a few years, in 2020, a friend of mine posted that she was living in Bali and she had just become a certified breath coach. And I still get goosebumps because the second I read that, it was like the joy just infused me. It's like, oh my gosh, that's me. That's what I need to be doing. So I got as a certified as a breath coach in 2020, and that's what I've been focusing on since then. So for me, it is truly a joy. And I thank you, Nancy, for inviting me because anytime I get to vomit all about breath work, I like, yes, thank you. So what I teach is functional breathing. Okay. There's a plethora of breathwork techniques nowadays, and it's becoming like this new fad, I think, in a way. So almost every week I hear of a new system or a new technique or a new breathwork. And I've done breathwork where it's more therapy. Um, I mean, I was once in a room with like 50 people all lying on a yoga mat, and we started breathing through the mouth, which for me is like the jarring. And some people started screaming and shouting. It's like, what the heck is this? Well, for me, that's therapy. And I believe the person who was doing it is actually a licensed therapist. So that's fine. There's a room and a place for that. That's not what I teach, because people sometimes tell me, oh no, I've tried breath work and it's no, I don't want to do that again. It's like, it's what you do every single day. I want to teach you to do it more efficiently and effectively, because every breath that you take affects how your body functions, affects every one of our 30 trillion cells, or however many cells we have, right? Excuse me. So that's what I teach.
You know, Sylvia, it's interesting. It was like more than 30 years ago, I think I was listening to Jack Canfield in a seminar, and I had never heard this before, but he said, I can tell how much someone loves themselves by the way they're breathing.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I thought that was so interesting. Can you expound on that? Like how
Sure.
would someone understand that?
You know what? When we start becoming mindful of how we breathe, and we start breathing the way we should breathe, it affects the way we feel. And I notice, because I've had clients who come to my class, but I can feel that they're like this. And because they are so stuck in whatever victim mode and whatever thing is going on, that they actually don't allow themselves to open the airways to the information to seep in and to implement it. So for me, it's truly all about feeling what that proper breathing does for you. And it's like something that grows within. And the way I see it, and if I'm understanding correctly, everybody is spiritually minded here.
Yes, ma'am.
Good.
Yep.
So we all know that what are we? We're energy, right? If you go into quantum physics and all that, you understand that that's all everything is. So when we're breathing in, we're actually breathing Gus. And I say Gus because for me it's God, universe, spirit, whatever you want to call this amazing entity that created us and is part of us. I believe in God's omnipresence, which for me means that God is everywhere, in everyone, and in everything. So when you're breathing in, you're breathing that prana, that energy that is God. So when you allow yourself to breathe properly, it's infusing your cells with God energy. That's the way I feel it and
I
feel it.
I feel that so much when you what you just
Lovely.
said, and I can tell you Donna's like, yes.
I know.
Yes, our breathing is the only relationship we have from birth to death.
Exactly.
That's it. And it awakens the life force within us. It's not just all about there, but it just somehow awakens the life force within us and allows it. So tell us more, and maybe you could guide us through some breathing the way you
Oh my God,
teach.
yes, absolutely. And
You know,
Nancy knows that I
Sylvia,
could talk for 3 hours.
before you go on with that, I was just thinking what you Donna said, it's the only thing that we have from birth to death.
Mm.
And in thinking about Sherry being having spent so many years being a birth doula, think about that when once we really got back into that breathing during the birth process. Sherry, what are your thoughts about that? Like when you're really focused on the mom to be, and the breathing part of it.
Well, thank you. I love this conversation, and interestingly, and Sylvia and I spoke a week or so ago that because I have done the therapy type breath work as well, and so it to me it's like what you're talking about, Sylvia, is something that's like a micro experience of that in a way, because our breath, as everybody is saying here, is so vital to our connection to ourselves. And so bringing it back, Nancy, to what you're saying as far as being a doula, the breath is what you're taught in labor. It's about how we give into our body, how we allow our bodies to do the work, because let's face it, it's such a miracle what has to happen and what happens to make room. The body is going through all of these incredible transformations when you're in labor. It does it, of course, the whole 9 months of being pregnant. My daughter's pregnant right now, so I'm watching and I have a front row seat to it. She's about 6 months pregnant right now. And so, what I think about this though is, and it's kind of what I say to my moms, that it's so physical, giving birth, your breath is so necessary. And what is more important is our minds. And so it's like making that connection, because if we're walking around and we've just got tension and worries and concerns and the weight of the world, we're like these giant heads. We've everything's here and we're not connecting to our bodies. And when we use the breath, that is the connector to bring it in through, kind of our head area, right? And through our nose, which I've become naturally a nose breather, and then bring it through our whole bodies. And so that is about that. What I tell my birth clients is the single thing that you have to do, it's about surrender. And you can only surrender if you're bringing energy through the body, because you're letting it, you're letting it happen. You're letting it in.
Yeah,
And it's all about breath.
I love that. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful.
Wow.
So
And
Sylvia, what do you like? How do you even get started when someone comes to you and says, all right, I don't really understand what you're saying, Sylvia, but you're talking about breath work and it seems like it would be something I need to know. Like, where do you even get started with them? Where do you go from A to Z?
Well, I mean, I have a conversation with them, obviously. First of all, I find out if they have some health issues or if there's anything in particular that they want to resolve, if they have anxiety or if they have pain or if they're not sleeping or lack of energy. Because what I teach is different types of breaths. Okay, people have this misconception that breath work is all about taking a deep breath. Well, first of all, it's not a deep breath. It's a dysfunctional breath at best, right? So I little by little, I guide them to what I always do, which is a short little introduction to how often, I mean, how many times do we breathe every single day? And some of you may not know it or may not, but we breathe between 20,000 and 30,000 times every single day. Why? Because we breathe very shallow breaths. So we end up breathing between 15 and 25 times per minute when it should be about 6 or 7 times per minute, bringing down to 11,000 times per day. So it's just honestly bringing awareness to their breath, because people, and we've all been there, where we just take our breath for granted because it just happens, thanks to God, right? But helping people understand that they have the power to control their breath and the importance of doing so. So first of all, as I say, I find out if they have any issues, because if they need to deal with anxiety and stress, I teach them calming breaths, and those tend to be longer exhalations, because when you're exhaling for a long time, you're activating the vagus nerve, which is the one that gets us into the parasympathetic mode of relax and digest and recuperate, right? So as I say, if they need calming breaths, that's what I teach. If they need just to be more mindful about their breath, there's a few anytime breaths that I teach. Then there's the energizing breaths, which tend to be the opposite. If you're feeling kind of like, oh my God, I don't have any energy, you do a few of these, and before you know it, you will feel the difference. And those are longer inhales and sharper exhales. So we'll do a couple of these so that you feel the difference. And then So there's anytime breath, calming breath, energizing breath. And then I help people understand that the natural urges of yawning and sighing are as much part of the respiration movement as anything else. So what has society taught us to do? Time and time again, if you're yawning in front of someone,
Stifle. Yeah.
stifle it and you try not to yawn. Obviously, it's not very nice to go in front of people, right? So maybe you find a way of covering yourself, but it's important. How do you feel when you allow yourself to take a proper deep yawn? When you exhale, it's like, right? It's your
Yeah.
body saying, I need to step into parasympathetic mode. So please give me more energy so that I can activate the vagus nerve. Okay.
And
And then,
it's interesting because all you have to do is talk about yawning, and I can feel it coming on for me.
right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's
We
Well,
should
you
all be
see
yawning right
somebody
now.
else yawn. See somebody else yawn, you have to yawn.
Yep. And then sighing also is like, oh, well, what's the matter? Am I boring you or what? Right. I mean, we have all these stupid society imposed ways of reacting to things. Sighing, if you do it mindfully, which is what I've taught some people to do, is it releases stress and anxiety. So you can go, and just shake it off and walk about and before you know it, it's that energy has shifted and you don't feel so apprehensive about whatever it is that you're apprehensive about, right? So basically I try to find out what it is that client needs. And for me, it's all about creating that self-awareness and teaching people that breath work, mindful breathing, can be really easy to learn. And when I do a private session with people, I always send a pre-workshop or pre-class homework to do. So I send them a couple of very short videos. One is 2 minutes long, but it teaches you how to breathe properly, how to take a proper deep breath, which is, of course, sending it down to the stomach first, and then filling the chest, and then emptying the stomach first, and then emptying the chest. That's diaphragmatic breathing. So when people go, that is just from here up, and that is not a proper deep breath, right? So that little short video is just to put a little seed there. Okay, so there are different ways of breathing, and you can control this, right? As opposed to letting it just happen. And then the other one is also about 6 minutes long, and it's the journey of oxygen throughout the body. So once you
Yeah.
breathe in, we believe the lungs are like a balloon, right? No, no, no. I mean, there's thousands of little alveoli that help to transmit that oxygen into our bloodstream, which then takes it to our cells. Then I teach the importance of breathing through the nose. And thank you, Sherry, for mentioning that. Or who was it? It was you, right?
Yeah, it was me.
Because I can't tell you how many people I meet who they have their mouth opened and they're so used to breathing through the mouth that they're not even aware they're doing it.
Mhm.
And they claim that they have plugged up nostrils, which in a way is true. But once you start breathing properly, it clears up, and there's ways of clearing it up. So I wanted to share just with you 3 books that are for me just fantastic. The
Okay.
first one I read is this one by Adler.
Okay. Breath. Oh, breath. Okay.
The
That
New
is,
Science of a Lost Art by James Nestor.
Huh.
Excellent.
yeah, so that's a great book because he's done decades of research into breath work, and he explains how he did an experiment, science-based experiment that lasted about 21 days, where he totally plugged up his nostrils and breathed only through the mouth for 21 days. So he and another scientist did it, and every day they got checked for all different health markers, right? And it's just amazing to see how it affected their health.
Mm.
So breathing through the nose, and I'll explain why it's important. First of all, you're filtering the air. Okay,
Yeah.
when you
Yeah.
breathe, like the villi are holding on to any toxins or things that shouldn't go in.
Mhm.
It's warming up the air. It is, you're creating nitric oxide, which is created in the nostrils, and that is very important for the absorption of oxygen at a cellular level. And you're actually changing the alkalinity, what is it called? The what is it?
pH.
pH.
pH, thank you. The pH of the air. So there's a whole lot of things that happen when we breathe through the nose versus the mouth. And I mean, you can feel it right now. Breathe through your nose. Feel what it feels like going into your lungs. And now open your mouth and take a breath through your mouth. It
Oh,
dries out, right?
Different, very different.
Doesn't
Yeah.
feel good.
Totally.
Yeah.
So there's that. Then this is another great book, Breath Work. And this is a really short little book, but it goes into a lot of detail and how breathwork affects the entire system. And then the one that I'm still reading, and you can see I have tons of
Tons
Yeah.
of notes.
The Breathing Cure. Okay, and this one is truly fantastic. I'm actually doing a little course on that type of breathing. It was invented by Dr. Buteyko at the beginning of the 20th century. And he's helped countless people who suffer from asthma, from COPD, from all sorts of things, just learning how to breathe differently. Another misconception that people have is that carbon dioxide is a bad thing. I mean, we breathe in oxygen, it gets absorbed at the cellular level, and the cell releases the carbon dioxide, which is a byproduct, and that's what we exhale, right? So a lot of people think that we need to get rid of all the carbon dioxide. No, in order for the oxygen to get absorbed at a cellular level, there needs to be a certain amount of carbon dioxide coursing through our system. So that is what he teaches, is actually learning to hold the exhale to create more carbon dioxide. I mean, it's just really fascinating. I'm learning a lot. So there's so much to breath work, and one could talk hours about it, and I don't want to get too into biology and things like that. I just want people to understand that, no, it's not about just taking a deep breath. I mean, there's a time for that and a proper way of doing that, but there's so many other different factors that come into proper breathing. And you don't have to spend the whole day, oh my gosh, I need to do this. No. I mean, it's truly learning a few basics. So when I do my private sessions with people or workshops, I, ahead of time, in that other email that I sent before, I sent a handout with all the different breaths that I'm going to be teaching, so that people print it out, and then they have it. Having done it with me, then they have it to fall back on every day, because my intention is to help people, to inspire people to create a daily breathwork routine. And I tell people, before you jump out of bed, yes, you have a full day of things, whatever. Before you jump out of bed, spend 5, 10 minutes, half an hour, whatever works for you, just doing some breath work. And that will help you start your day with a totally different energy level and mindset.
Sylvia, wouldn't you say that, because a lot of people have a practice of doing a meditation first thing in the morning. So can you talk about how, because to me, your breath is so aligned with meditation. So can you say something more about that?
I mean, it's one of these things where it is. And for me, I mean, I've done meditation for many, many years, so I totally get it. And it's what helps you when you, because people have this problem, oh my gosh, I cannot quiet my mind. Once you learn to just focus on that breath coming in and out, it's almost like an automatic thing, because as you concentrate on that breath, little by little, the thoughts and whatever you were thinking kind of like go away for a while. And if they come by, it's like, oh, hello, bye-bye. And you go back to your breathing. So, I mean, it's truly what breathwork, and I mean, if you see, there's a whole lot of YouTubes by a whole lot of different people who do different, the breathwork of fire. And I mean, there's so many different breaths that you can spend hours just going one after the other, right? So again, my intention, Sherry, is to help people understand how easy it is to breathe better throughout the day. You all know Dr. Andrew Weil, yes?
Yes.
Okay. So he actually wrote that if he was to just give one advice or one tip for achieving better health, was to learn to breathe better.
Wow.
Wow. Exactly. So that's
Wow.
what I tell people. The most important thing you do every single day is breathing. So how we breathe is going to affect your
Wow.
body.
So
You know?
a lot of us have been breathing the equivalent of junk food,
Yeah,
but breathing is
exactly.
more important than nutrition.
Yeah,
Wow. That's
Literally.
interesting.
exactly. And just a little tip that I actually learned about 2 months ago. What do you think happens when people are trying to release weight and they're on a diet, which I have been for 6 months now, and I've released 35 pounds. So I'm kind of like really excited, 36. But what do you think happens to that fat when it gets metabolized and used up?
It just flattens out. I don't know.
We actually breathe it out.
Wow.
I know. It's like, what? And it makes sense because it doesn't just stay there. I mean, it gets used up. And there's a very fantastic YouTube by I think he's a Stanford professor, and he teaches this and he explains it just with chemistry, how all the molecules and what happens and how this molecule then gets exhaled out.
Sylvia,
Fascinating.
you have taught us so much. You've taught us that we breathe too many breaths in the day and
Yep.
that we would be so much more empowered in our daily lives if we would take less number of breaths.
Yes.
You've taught us that we can breathe out excess fat, I'll say, excess weight. You've taught us that we can breathe in and out to love ourselves more. I mean, this has been, when I think about all of these things that you have taught us today, anyone wanting to be less apologetic for things that are showing up in their lives that they don't want to show up, it, it's breathing. I mean, just breathing it. It's amazing to me. I mean, I have heard you speak many times, and I feel like I get something different every single time, and I did today as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And I mean, it's something that I adore so much, and it's within me. And every time I prepare for a presentation, it's like, oh my gosh, what I'm going to say. And I start writing things down. It's like, you know what? It will flow through you the way it needs to come out. And that's what I do. And
Yeah.
I mean, I absolutely love it. And I love it when people say, you know what, I was thinking about you because I caught myself not breathing. It's like, yes, okay. I'm getting through to people.
Awareness is it, don't you think? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
that's the first place to start anything. When you started talking about how many times you breathe in a minute, my mind immediately went to, okay, I've got to test this. I've got to put a timer on my phone for a minute and watch and see, because I'm curious, like, I don't know. And of course, being aware of it, you're probably going to do better than when you are stressed out and stuff. And then because I think about if somebody's really nervous,
Mm,
you hear them,
yeah.
right?
Ex-
That's the connection to being completely freaked out.
Right, right. When I was, hold on, let me just say this.
Yeah, go, go.
When I was working full time for OC Hospice, I used to do monthly self-care workshops for our staff. And I always started with a 10 or 15 minute long breathwork session, and then I would explain to them how important and easy it is for them to do certain breaths, because they're dealing with so much stress, dealing with these terminally ill patients and their dysfunctional families a lot of times. And there's so much stress. So it's like, you know what? You have the power to encase yourself in your energy and just be safe and take care of yourself, right? So yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Dana.
No, what you're saying is amazing because, and what Sherry was saying was when I was singing, I was doing one woman shows, and at the very beginning, I realized I'd get through the first part of it, and I'd be so excited, I'd be up here, and I couldn't get it down. So I trained myself, and when I was teaching singing, to breathe through my feet and expand wide, but breathing, feeling my roots go right through the soles of my feet, and then I attached it to NLP.
Yeah.
So if I was excited in the beginning of a show, I could go like this and all of a sudden be right back. It was like I couldn't be anxious and relaxed at the same time. And it had everything to do with how I was breathing and expanding down and wide. It just somehow anchored it. But what you're talking about, though, is because I've been thinking about how do we do intentional manifesting? Our bodies are the instrument that resonates these vibrations out into the world, and yet we're thinking, oh, I'm just going to think it. I'm going to think it. Really, it's not just that. It's what we're being, and so our breathing is what starts actually the vibrating everything. I've written down all the books. I think you're spectacular, what you're saying. Wow.
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, I love it. I take it for granted that people know what I'm talking about. And sometimes I say some things like, what? Like, oh, that's right. And I have to remind myself that most people don't have that understanding of the importance of their breathing, right? So I see that we're at 11:33. So if you want, I would love to just do a couple of breathing techniques so that you
Please,
feel the difference. Okay.
please do
So
that.
I'm going to start, as I normally start with at a workshop or a private session, is ask you to just sit with your feet on the floor and just, if you feel comfortable and well supported, and please close your eyes. So for about a minute and a half, I am actually going to be silent, and I invite you all three to connect with your breath and just be aware. Don't judge it. Don't try to change it or do anything. Just be aware of that breath going in. What does it feel like? Is it warm? Is it cold? Is it dry? Is it moist? How deep is it going? Just notice. It's all about observing. So I'll be quiet now. Just keep noticing, feeling that air going in. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. When you're done, what did you feel? What did you notice?
Well, first of all, I felt it was dry, but then I just noticed myself then just falling into kind of a very deep, like coming back to myself almost. And just watching it was interesting, not trying to do anything with it, very like Vipassana, just watching it.
Perfect, perfect. How about you, Sherry?
I felt very quiet and grounded.
And you, Nancy?
For me, feeling my ribs expand and contract, and then wondering if I was doing enough diaphragm breathing. And then I reminded myself, stop thinking about how you're doing it and I found myself going into every time like I feel my ribs expand, I would say thank you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing. And usually during the day, and we're not even aware of this, sometimes we're kind of like tense in whatever reason, for whatever reason. So I always tell people, okay, before you start doing your work, your breath work, I want you to just move and stretch a bit, because when you stretch your muscles, you're actually allowing, precisely as Nancy said, for those ribs to expand, because then the muscles aren't like this, they're kind of softer, right? So stretching is really, really important. And I don't know about you ladies, I know that I don't do it often enough, but when I do it, it's like, okay, thank you. Okay, so now we've done the step number one, as I tell people, is self-awareness. So it's not about judging, it's just 5 or 10, 1 or 2 minutes of just, okay, the minute you start concentrating on your breath, it's like the world ceases to impact us the same way, right?
True.
Then one of the most important and vital things we can learn to do to bring those 20,000 times to 11,000 times is to learn the coherent breath. The coherent breath is a breath that takes about 6 seconds in and 6 seconds out, really softly and gently. You can almost barely feel the air going in and then out through the nose. And that is, excuse me, that is truly the most important breath that you can learn and practice. And every time you think of it, it's okay, let's just bring, because the more we practice it, the more it just becomes the way we breathe. So when there's that awareness, it's like, oh, okay, am I breathing too shallow, too fast? Okay, calm down. So then before we do that, and I'm sure you're all meditators, so I'm sure you have no problem getting to 4. I mean, some people actually do have a problem, but let's just do 2 or 3 breaths in, counting to 4. And out. Now, I don't know if you heard what I just did. Are you all familiar with ocean breath or ujjayi breath?
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do when you clean? Do you wear glasses, Udana, or any kind?
Sometimes, yeah, I wear contact lenses.
Oh, okay. But
And then I have reading glasses sometimes.
have you ever done this to clean your glasses?
Yes.
Okay, that is what is going to happen back here. So it's a way of releasing the air, and you can do it with the mouth open or closed. It's just back here. I like to open my mouth because that sound is like an ocean wave, and it's a very relaxing sound. Okay, so I go like this. Very soft and smooth, and breathe in again. And again. Okay, now we're going to do to 6, and to do counting to 6, that brings in the diaphragm a bit. And you all know that the diaphragm is the muscle that controls the breathing, right? And when it's a muscle, so when we don't use it, it gets lax, right? So that's part of doing the breath work, is getting that diaphragm to wake up. It's like, oh, that's right, I'm meant to be doing this job better than I've been doing it. So when we breathe in, send that air down to your stomach. So you're going to blow your stomach as a balloon. And then fill the chest. And then when you exhale, I want you to contract the stomach muscles. And then empty the chest. Okay, so you're breathing in, blowing the stomach, and then the chest. And then when you exhale, you contract the stomach and then empty the chest. Okay.
Can we exhale through our nose or our mouth?
Exhale, whatever you feel comfortable. Some people prefer to do it with the mouth closed, and that's fine. It's just I want you to get used to exhaling because that's the very calming part of the breath. Okay.
Okay.
And try to get it to 5 or 6 because I want you to get into the coherent breath, which is up to 6. Okay. Exhale. So that is coherent breath, okay? It's counting up to 6 and exhaling to 6. If you implement that throughout your day, various times, and you get into the habit of doing it, little by little, it will become more like, oh, okay, breathe slowly, in and out. That alone, when you start getting panicky or anxious, that alone can be like, oh, okay, I'm okay now. And I have 3 more minutes. So I just want you to feel that was part of the relaxing, the calming breaths, right? And when we do a session, because I'm hoping that we can do a session so that you all get the whole thing of what I teach, I want you to do an energizing breath so that you feel the difference of the energy going. So we start with our hands closed right here next to our shoulders. And as we go up and we breathe in a longer inhale, we're going to open our hands and keep our fingers together. Okay, so it's going to be close your, when you come down, Nancy, close the, okay, so it's up and down. There we go. And if you can go, I don't know if you have a problem with your shoulders, don't do it, Sherry. Okay,
I do.
go as high as you can. But do you feel the difference?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you do 20 or 30 of those, before you know it, the energy is like, oh, okay, I'm ready to go. And with that, I'm ready to go. So
Sylvia, thank you so much for being here, sharing your time, your wisdom, your expertise, and giving us all of this beautiful, wonderful breath work.
thank
We
you
really
so much.
appreciate
I
you.
feel gratitude in my heart because every time I get to share it, for me, it's just amazing. Nice to meet you again because I think we had met you, Donna. I remember your name. So I remember seeing you before. Sherry, good to see you again.
Good to see you
Sensei,
again.
love you.
Thank you. You're
Watch
amazing.
the
Wow.
replay
Thank
or
you.
watch in the description, and if you want to get a hold of Sylvia, her information will be down there. In the
Thank you.
meantime, have a great day.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. And
Thank
just in
you.
closing, I charge 85 for a private session and it's an hour long. You get your handout and I keep kind of like track of what you're doing for a couple of weeks, reminding you. And if you have any doubts, of course, you always call me. And I'm planning on doing a workshop soon, so I'll let Nancy know. But with that, ladies, blessings. And thank you for inviting me into this sacred space. Hope to see you
Thank
again.
you.
Thank
Thank